Good evening and welcome to Spectrum Television News at 9. I am Uyai Anyeka and coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Let's take a look at the major stories. Senate to include dredging of River Benue others in 2024 appropriation bill. Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino officially flags off one project per local government initiative of his government. Plus, Rishi Sunak under pressure over rape allegations against lawmaker. Details of the stories and more in a moment. Good evening and thanks for joining us. First in the news tonight, Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino has officially flagged off the one project per local government initiative of his government with the inauguration of the construction of a remodeled government primary school in Ongofiong in Eket local government area. Speaking during the event, the governor, who reiterated that the initiative is part of his commitment to rural development, said various projects will be replicated across the 31 local government areas of the state based on their choice, stating that each project will be completed within the period of 6 months for new ones to begin across the state. According to him, the new school will be adorned with solar power, security gate and perimeter fence, headmistress and staff quarters, noting that government will also ensure the provision of school uniforms, books and shoes for the students, stressing that the flag-off of the project represents the official flag-off of all projects that will be done in Eket Senatorial District, while similar events will be held for Uyo and Ikotopene Senatorial District. The governor noted that the move was in line with his determination to curb the issue of out-of-school children and ensure that education is made attractive to them by the provisions of the basic needs and a conducive learning environment for them with modern facilities to enable them compete with their counterparts at the urban areas. He also reiterated that some students in the rural areas will be picked and sent to the United Kingdom by the government on an exchange program. Governor No used the occasion to urge international oil companies, IOCs operating in the state, to support his rural development drive by adopting any of the projects and replicating the same in their host communities as part of their corporate social responsibility. He also disclosed that a bill will soon be sent to the State House of Assembly on Security Trust Fund, which will ensure that companies operating in the state contribute to the Security Trust Fund to enable the government to continue in the sustenance of peace and security in the state. Giving details of the remodeled school, the Commissioner for Special Duties and Ibom Deep Sea Ports, Dr. Basil Kohn, thanked the governor for approving the project, noting that the new school project will include classrooms for the pupils, clinic, assembly halls, toilets, and water facilities, among others. Government House correspondent January reports that in their goodwill messages, the State Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Frank Achibong, the paramount ruler of Eket local government area, His Royal Majesty Edidem ECD Abia, and the chairman of Eket local government area, Akaniyen Tommy, had appreciated the governor for his commitment to the development of Eket and assured him of their unalloyed support to his government. Meanwhile, Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino has felicitated the serving overseer Pastor Simeon Afalobi and members of First Love Assembly on their 25th anniversary celebration. In his message of facilitation at the grand finale of a 5-day convention commemorating the church anniversary held at the church headquarters in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, the governor described Pastor Afalobi as an amazing teacher of the gospel and father figure, whose counseling and guidance has been a pillar of support to his life and pastoral ministry. Addressing the congregation, Governor Eno said he was in Rivers State to share fellowship with Pastor Afolabi and thanked Governor Similaye Fubara of Rivers State for a warm reception, giving him an esteem. Earlier in the event, Pastor Falabi, who elaborated on the significance of the theme of the convention, the help of God, attributed the height the church has attained in the past 25 years to God's mercies and love. According to him, the 2023 convention was special to the church as it marked the peak of God's help and activation of a new phase of grace that the church needs for the task ahead. From the Red Chambers, I beg your pardon, where the Senate has resolved to facilitate the inclusion of the dredging of River Benue and other river projects in the 2024 appropriation bill to address the perennial flooding and its multidimensional consequences. The lawmakers also urged President Bola Tinubu to facilitate the construction of dams, including the Dazin Hausa Dam proposed to be in the Fufore local government area in Adamawa State to curtail the potential risk of excessive flood. The National Emergency Management Agency NEMA to provide relief materials to the victims of the flood and embark on enlightenment of the dangers of crossing rivers before or after rainfall. These resolutions come against the backdrop of perennial flooding caused by floods and undrenched River Benue. According to NEMA, in 2022 alone, over 2.41 million people were displaced and over 600 fatalities were recorded, with hectares of farmland across the affected state swept off. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Senate has adopted a resolution asking the federal and state ministries of education to immediately conduct a risk assessment of school infrastructure to identify hazards and vulnerabilities and timelessly identify means to mitigate the hazards. The resolution was arrived at after a thorough debate on the motion urgent need to mandate schools to locate their creche and nursery classes to the ground floors of their high-rise buildings and implement safety protocols. The motion was sponsored by Senator Idiat Oluranti Adebule, representing Lagos West Senatorial District. Expressing deep concern over the death of a toddler, David Etemudo, on the 24th of October 2023 at the Emerald International School, Aba, Abia State, the lawmaker explained that the late toddler fell from the school high-rise building, leading to his tragic death. Away from that, the federal government has shut down some sections of the third mainland bridge in Lagos State. The federal controller of works in Lagos, Olukorede Kisha, said the main deck of the 11.8 kilometers bridge is open to traffic, while work is expected to commence immediately for 2 weeks on the closed sections and another 3 weeks for the other two rams outward at Dekunle to Orashoki and outward at Dekunle to Lagos Island. He advised motorists to use alternative routes like Ikorodu Road, Murtala Mohammed Way, Ojota and Bagada. Meanwhile, the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas (CNG) initiative has inaugurated the Kaduna State CNG Conversion Center as part of the federal government's effort to mitigate the effect of subsidy removal. According to the chairman of the Presidential CNG Initiative Steering Committee, Zach Adedeji, The CNG conversion site is a visionary facility designed to convert conventional petrol vehicles into compressed natural gas powered vehicles. Adedeji noted that the centers represented Nigeria's commitment to transition into cleaner and more affordable energy solutions. Speaking at the inauguration of the conversion center, he said the transformation would not only reduce the operating cost for vehicle owners, but also contribute to the substantial decrease in carbon emissions. Moving over now to politics, Peter Obi has described the Supreme Court's judgment that affirmed Bola Tinubu's election as Nigeria's president as a breach of the citizens' trust in the judiciary. The Apex Court had some weeks ago dismissed the appeals of Obi, who contested under the Labour Party in the 2023 presidential election, and that of his People's Democratic Party (PDP) counterpart Atiku Abubakar, challenging Tinubu's victory at the Presidential Election Petition Court (PEPC). But while reacting to the Supreme Court ruling, Obi accused the Apex Court of ignoring evidence which he said further dampened citizens' trust in the judiciary. Meanwhile, Justice Iyan Eko of the Federal High Court in Abuja has confirmed the authenticity of the National Youth Service Corps NYSC certificate of Governor Peter Mbah of Enugu State as validly issued by the Corps. Delivering judgment today, Justice Eko held that the evidence before the court showed that the governor, though was mobilized for service in 2001, completed it in 2003. According to the court, Mbah, midway into his service, sought and after receiving permission from NYSC to attend the Nigeria Law School, was reinstated into the NYSC in 2003. The court, which found the Director General and the NYSC guilty of misrepresentation of material facts, subsequently awarded the sum of 5 million naira damages against them. Elsewhere, the Court of Appeal has sacked Chijioke Okereke of the Labour Party as the member representing Aniri, Agu, Oji River Federal Constituency. The court dismissed Okereke's appeal against an earlier sack by the Enugu State National Assembly Election Petitions Tribunal. In a judgment delivered today, the court ruled that the appeal against the tribunal ruling that Anayo Onegbu of the People's Democratic Party PDP is the rightful winner of the election lacks merit. Recall that the tribunal had sacked Okereke, affirming Onegbu as the duly elected candidate of the February 25 poll. In the meantime, the Court of Appeal in Abuja has also sacked Musa Kwankwase of the All Progressives Congress APC as a House of Representative member representing the Kura Madobi Garu Malam Federal Constituency. The appellate court reinstated the new Nigeria People's Party NMPP candidate Yusuf Umar Dati in its judgment. The three-judge panel led by Justice Tunde Oyebamiji Awotoye allowed an appeal by Dati. Justice Owotoye ruled that the tribunal was wrong to have counted the date of the appellant's resignation on the date of his party's primary election. Still on judicial matters, the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has reserved judgment in the appeal by the Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf, challenging his removal by the Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal. Recall that the tribunal had on September 20 nullified Yusuf's election by declaring 165,663 of his votes invalid. The tribunal held that the ballot papers were neither signed nor stamped by the Independent National Electoral Commission. Consequently, it declared the All Progressives Congress candidate Nasiru Gawuna winner of the governorship election. Dissatisfied with the judgment, Yusuf appealed against the tribunal verdict and urged the court to set aside the judgment. Meanwhile, the suspended Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) Resident Electoral Commissioner REC in Adamawa State, Hudu Yunusa Ari, has failed to show up at the Adamawa State High Court where he was to be arraigned earlier today. Justice Benjamin Maji of the State High Court ordered INEC to produce him in court during its next sitting on November 23, 2023. The prosecution counsel to INEC, Justice Rotimi Jacobs, claimed police made several attempts to serve Yunusa Ari the hearing notice by visiting his home, but he could not be traced. In another development, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State has approved the payment of 25,000 naira for workers and 15,000 naira for pensioners as wage awards in the state. The governor said the payments will be for 6 months at an additional 2.2 billion naira to the wage bill of the state. Makinde made the disclosure in the company of labor leaders, including Comrade Kayode Martins, NLC, Comrade Bosun Olabiyi, TUC, Comrade Olanikpe Konoluwaseun, JNC Public Sector, while addressing workers at the entrance of the Governor's Office Secretariat Ibadan. Other government functionaries, including Special Advisor, Labour Matters, Comrade Adebayo Titiola Sodo, the Executive Assistant to the Governor, Reverend Idowu Odegbangbe, among others, also accompanied the governor during the address. The workers had stormed the governor's office as part of a decision taken during a congress today to ensure the issue is resolved once and for all. Still to come in the news. Approved digital money lending apps in Nigeria hit 211. Stay tuned for details of this and more after the break.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Thanks for staying tuned, and now to the rest of the news stories. We move to Africa, where the United Nations World Food Programme today said more than 1.6 million children aged under 5 will suffer from malnutrition next year in South Sudan, following the surge in waterborne diseases due to flooding. Reports say the world's newest nation has endured deadly conflict, natural disasters, economic malaise, and relentless political infighting since it won independence from Sudan in 2011. Meanwhile, as flooding becomes an annual affair in some parts of the country, people living in waterlogged areas have struggled to access food while also grappling with the spread of disease. According to reports, in Rukona County, where floodwaters have submerged large tracts of land, forcing entire communities to live on small islands since 2021. The cost of food staples has climbed more than 120% since April. The county, which lies in the north of the country, is forecast to face catastrophic levels of hunger by April 2024. Still in Africa, United Nations Humanitarian Agency says thousands of people are trapped in flooded areas following heavy rains in Somalia's Jubaland state. The Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, said in a statement that the heavy rains, which started last month, have elevated the water levels on the Juba River, causing flooding in riverine areas of the state. The statement noted that in Luke District, 2,400 people have been trapped in an area surrounded by water, adding that efforts by authorities and rescue partners are underway to evacuate the stranded locals. Meanwhile, said at least 15 people have died in Kenya as floods swept away scores of houses and devastated farmland following torrential rains. Reports say heavy rainfall has pounded the country, particularly the bone-dry north, in recent days and sent water gushing into homes and submerging roads, with similar scenes playing out across other parts of East Africa. It added that more than 1,000 livestock have died, while at least 240 acres, about 97 hectares of agricultural farmland have been destroyed. Meanwhile, the United Nations Humanitarian Agency, OCHA, said last month that Eastern Africa would likely encounter heavier than normal rains over the October-December period because of the El Nino phenomenon. Kenya's Meteorological Department also warned last week that the heavy rains were likely to be accompanied by gusty winds. Elsewhere, the South African government said today it would recall all its diplomats from Israel to signal its concern over the situation in Gaza. Kumduzo Nasveni, a minister in the president's office, told a press briefing that all diplomatic staff in Tel Aviv will be asked back to Pretoria for consultations without providing further details. Fighting has raged in the Gaza Strip for about a month since Hamas militants launched an unprecedented attack over the border from the territory into Israel on October 7. According to reports, more than 1,400 people, most of them civilians, have been killed in Israel since the attack, during which Hamas took more than 240 people hostage. Meanwhile, in response, Israel has relentlessly bombarded Gaza and sent in ground troops, with the health ministry in the Hamas-run Palestinian territory saying more than 9,700 people have been killed, also mainly civilians. Meanwhile, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has downplayed concerns over the expulsion of his country from a special U.S.-Africa trade program. Recall that U.S. President Joe Biden had said Uganda and 3 other African countries would be removed from the African Growth and Opportunity Act (AGOA), citing Uganda's gross violations of internationally recognized human rights. But President Museveni criticized the U.S., saying it overestimates the country and erroneously thinks that African countries cannot move forward without their support. Museveni, however, hailed the American government for maintaining funding for HIV drugs, but added that his government had a contingency plan to acquire the drugs if foreign donors pulled out. Still on the continent, more than 20 people have been killed and several others injured after shells hit a market in a suburb of Sudan's capital, Khartoum. Reports say the crowded market in Abdomen was hit after an intense exchange of fire between the Sudan Army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF). Meanwhile, a medical source told newsmen that the Saturday shelling killed 15 people in the Al Tawra neighborhood of Abdomen. In the meantime, the authorities in Guinea say at least 9 people were killed during a jailbreak in which former military ruler Moussa Dadis Camara was briefly freed. Recall that gunmen stormed the prison in the capital Conakry on Saturday, taking Captain Camara and 3 others. The Justice Ministry said suspected attackers, security forces, and civilians were among the dead. Meanwhile, the former president and 2 of the men were later returned to jail. They are on trial for the alleged role in the killing of more than 150 protesters at Conakry Stadium 14 years ago. He has denied the charges, but it is not clear if Captain Camara and the others were kidnapped or freed by the supporters. Meanwhile, heavy fighting is reported to be continuing between Ethiopian troops and local militias across large parts of the Amhara region. Residents say heavy weaponry is being used. There are also fears that civilians are trapped. The authorities had claimed they would contain the conflict, but fighters from the Fano militia group say they have thwarted government attacks and seized towns. Reports say communications blackouts have been imposed, making it difficult to confirm the details of the violence. It will be recalled that the Ethiopian government announced a state of emergency in August after militias entered several towns and briefly controlled an airport. Last week, Western countries, including Britain and the United States, called for a ceasefire. Elsewhere, security and local officials said separatist rebels killed around 20 people, including women and children, in an attack on a village in one of Cameroon's restive Anglophone regions. The overnight attack occurred in Ebakwe village, western Cameroon, the scene of deadly clashes between rebels and government forces for 7 years. According to reports, the attack left around 20 dead men, women and children, and 10 seriously injured people in hospital. Meanwhile, a security force official and an official from a governmental body also confirmed the attack and provisional toll. Cameroon's primarily English-speaking northwest and southwest regions have been gripped by conflict since separatists declared independence in 2017. It followed decades of grievances over perceived discrimination by the Francophone majority. President Paul Biya 90, who has ruled the Central African nation with an iron fist for 41 years to the day, has resisted calls for wider autonomy and responded with a crackdown. Still in Africa, Chad says it has recalled its charged the affairs in Israel for consultation over unprecedented deadly violence in the Gaza Strip. In a statement from the country's Foreign Affairs Ministry, the government condemned the loss of human lives of many innocent civilians and called for a ceasefire leading to a lasting solution to the Palestinian question. In 1972, Chad, a Muslim-majority country, severed its diplomatic relations with Israel but later revived ties in 2019. It is now the first African country to recall its envoy from Israel since the start of the war in October. So far, Turkey, Chile, Bahrain, Honduras, Colombia, and Jordan have also recalled their ambassadors to Israel. On the foreign scene, French Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne has said that the number of French citizens killed in Hamas's October 7 attacks on Israel has risen to 40. Borne said 8 French citizens remain missing, with some of them believed to have been captured by Hamas. According to the Israel Defense Forces, 240 hostages are being held by Hamas in Gaza. Still, on the foreign scene, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen today said the EU is increasing its humanitarian aid for Gaza by 25 million euros. Von der Leyen said flows of aid into Gaza from Egypt remain too small and that the EU was working on setting up other possible routes, including deliveries via sea from Cyprus. Von der Leyen, a staunch supporter of Israel, said it was essential the country strives to avoid civilian casualties in its operation in Gaza. She insisted a prerequisite once the fighting stops is that Gaza can no longer be safe haven for terrorists and Hamas will no longer be in charge of the territory. Meanwhile, Donald Trump began testifying today morning in his civil fraud trial, producing a spectacle of a former president and the leading Republican presidential candidate defending himself against allegations that he dramatically inflated his net worth. His turn on the witness stand in a case that cuts to the heart of the business brand he spent decades crafting amounts to a remarkable convergence of his legal troubles and his political ventures. Reports say the testimony gives him the opportunity to try to use the witness stand as a campaign platform as he eyes a return to the White House while facing multiple criminal indictments, but it's under oath format before a judge who has already fined him for incendiary comments outside of court creates clear peril for a business and candidate famous for a freewheeling rhetorical display. Elsewhere, the European Union executive is expected to recommend taking Ukraine one step closer to becoming a member of the bloc this week. According to the European Union officials, the converted price for Kyiv as the weariness creeps in nearly 2 years after Russia's invasion. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's Brussels-based executive will publish a report on Wednesday assessing progress achieved towards membership by EU hopefuls. On a visit to Kyiv on Saturday, she praised Ukraine for making the headway. Meanwhile, the reports and recommendation will inform a key decision in December by a summit of the EU's national leaders on whether to start formal membership negotiations with Kyiv. Such talks take years before candidates meet extensive legal and economic criteria to join, and the bloc is not willing to take in a country at war. In the meantime, British Premier Rishi Sunak has described allegations that a lawmaker from his own party committed a series of rapes as very serious, as he insisted his party's complaint procedures are robust. Sunak urged anyone with evidence of criminal acts to go to the police amid calls for an investigation into the party's handling of the claims. Sir Jake Berry, a former Tory party chairman, is said to have warned the police that an internal failure to act on allegations allowed the unnamed member of parliament to continue to offend. Speaking on a visit to Bacton Gas Terminal in Norfolk, the Prime Minister told broadcasters that opposition parties have urged the Conservatives to investigate the allegations over the unidentified member of parliament who was able to continue in their role in parliament. Meanwhile, France's justice minister goes on trial today on charges of using his office to settle personal scores in an unprecedented case that has raised concern about checks and balances in French democracy. Justice Minister Eric Dupont-Moretti's refusal to resign or at least to step aside from his role overseeing France's justice system during the trial has drawn widespread criticism. Once a high-profile lawyer, Dupont-Moretti is accused of abusing his position as justice minister to order probes targeting magistrates who investigated him, his friends, or his former clients. He denies wrongdoing. Meanwhile, he will face up to 5 years in prison and €500,000 in fines if convicted on charges of illegal conflict of interest. Still on the foreign scene, some 420,000 public sector workers seeking higher wages to keep pace with inflation in Canada's Quebec province walked off the job today for the first of several one-day strikes. Schools, health care facilities and social services were expected to be disrupted. 3 more strike days are also planned for late November. The coalition of major unions also threatened today an unlimited general strike if the two sides in the mostly French-speaking province are unable to reach an agreement soon. Meanwhile, the Quebec government has offered a 10% salary increase over 5 years and a one-time payment of $1,000 for each worker, which the coalition describes as insulting, offensive, and contemptuous. And now it's time for the latest business and stock market stories. Here is Davina Omang.
Thank you, Uyai Anyekan. Good evening. It is a new business week, and my name is Davina Praise Omang. In the news, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, says it has registered and approved 211 digital loan apps at the end of October 2023. The Commission disclosed this in a statement during the weekend. It stated that of the 211 digital money apps, 172 have received full approval, while 39 others have received conditional approval. Meanwhile, the number of loan apps under the watch list increased from 55 in September to 84 in October. The Commission said the unsettling operations of illicit loan apps across Nigeria, leading to rights abuses, made registration necessary. Still in Nigeria, amid a headwind of challenges ranging from multiple taxation, forex scarcity, and low patronage of locally produced goods, the debt owed by manufacturers to banks in the country has hit 6.98 trillion naira in the first half of 2023. The figure rose from 5.56 trillion naira in January 2023 to 6.98 trillion naira by June 2023, signifying 1.42 trillion naira increase. The figure also rose year-on-year from 4.53 trillion naira in June 2022 to 6.98 trillion naira in June of the current year, according to figures from the CBN's sectoral analysis of Deposit Money Bank's credit report. Naira strengthened in black market. The value of the Nigerian currency, Naira, increased significantly on Sunday on the black market due to the high possibility of more foreign exchange inflows in Africa's largest economy. The optimistic emotion sparked by federal government's promises to support dollar liquidity in the foreign exchange markets strengthened the local currency. This positive sentiment led to street traders purchasing dollars at a rate of 901 naira over the weekend, as opposed to 1,050 naira on Friday of last week. Meanwhile, on the pair-to-pair market, the naira, however, lost some ground as it traded at about 980 naira per dollar today. Over now to the Nigerian stock market report. Today is the first trading day of the week, and a total of 391.013 million shares and 6,837 deals, corresponding to a market value of 7.705 billion naira, were traded. The market capitalization stands at 38.7 trillion naira. In the aggregate, 120 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 27 gainers and 28 losers. Thomas White, Nigeria, led the gainers with 10% share price appreciation, closing at 4 naira 7 kobo per share. On the losing side, Associated Bus Company came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 9.3% at 78 kobo per share. United Bank for Africa recorded the highest volume of 106 million traded shares. Meanwhile, the benchmark all-share index climbed 282.85 basis points, closed at 70,479.62 points, representing a gain of 0.4%. Well, this is all on business news, and back to Uyai Anyekan for the rest of the news.
Thank you, Devina Praise. Still to come in the news. Chukwueze returns to full training at AC Milan. To stay tuned for details of this and more after the break. Thanks for staying tuned, and now to complete the news stories for tonight. In health, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors (NARD) has urged President Bola Tinubu to allocate at least 15% of the 2024 annual budget to the health sector. The president of NARD, Dr. Dele Abdullahi, disclosed this in an interview with newsmen while decrying the exclusion of the health sector from the 2023 supplementary budget. This was even as the joint health sector unions said the health sector was too important to be neglected in the supplementary budget. Recall that the National Assembly last Monday approved a 2.18 trillion naira supplementary budget for the 2023 fiscal year. The federal government said the supplementary budget was to fund urgent issues including defense and security, as well as the provision of welfare packages for workers and poor Nigerians to cushion the biting effect of petrol subsidy removal. Still in health, medical experts have allayed the fears about misconceptions and safety of the human papillomavirus vaccine introduced in Nigeria. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control (NAFDAC) approved Gardasil as a single-dose schedule based on the scientific evidence that a single dose of the vaccine delivers solid protection against cervical cancer. A consultant obstetrician and gynecologist at Iroa Specialist Teaching Hospital, Iroa, Edo State, Dr. Kudus Lawal, said persistent HPV infection caused over 5% global cancer burden, including cervical cancer. He said HPV vaccines prevent infection by certain types of human papillomavirus, adding that the vaccines have the potential to prevent more than 90% of HPV attributable cancers. Over now to Isaac for latest sports stories.
Well, thank you so much, Yai. Good evening. In sports, Samuel Chukwueze has returned to full training ahead of AC Milan's UEFA Champions League match against PSG on Tuesday. Chukwueze has been missing in action since sustaining a minor hamstring injury on international GT last month. Well, according to Caso Mercato, the winger was involved in full training with his teammates on Sunday. The 24-year-old is expected to be named among the substitutes for the game against PSG. His return will be a welcome boost for AC Milan, who have struggled to hit top form in recent outings. The Rossoneri are without a win in their last 4 games across all competitions. Still in Italy, Serie A feminine club Pomigliano have withdrawn from the Italian women's top flight with immediate effect after claiming that they are fighting against invisible opponents that takes away their energy and desire to continue. Pomigliano's decision to withdraw 6 games into the season was announced yesterday after a contentious referee decision saw a match-winning penalty awarded to the opponent, Sampdoria. The club released a statement to Tito Sports announcing the withdrawal and criticized both the league's organization and management of finances, as well as the performance of the officials. The statement also hit out at the referees in charge of their loss to Sampdoria. Pomigliano 9th the Serie A Femminile, 1 point above Napoli, who have failed to win any of their first 6 league matches. Serie A Femminile, which moved to full professionalism from the beginning of the 2022-23 season, is made up of 10 teams. If Pomigliano's withdrawal is confirmed, it's not clear how the competition would continue with an odd number of clubs. Oh, coming back home, Nigerian elite referee and FIFA badge Yemisi Akintoye has been selected for this year's African Women's Champions League taking place in Ivory Coast from November 5th to November 19th. The University of Lagos graduate was one of the 17 referees selected across Africa and one of the 12 selected after an intensive 1-week pre-tournament course. A statement by the Confederation of African Football (CAF) on Monday confirmed Akintoye's participation alongside other referees at this year's Africa Women's Champions League. Well, that's it on sports. My name is Isaac. Isaac, back to you, Yai, and good evening.
Thank you, Isaac. On entertainment news, a new statement from the family of actor John Okafor, also known as Mr. Ibu, disclosed that one of his legs has been amputated to keep him alive. Recall that the news surfaced in October that the veteran actor was ill and required financial assistance to aid in his treatment. In the statement shared on the actor's Instagram page today, it was revealed that the actor had undergone 7 successful surgeries, including the amputation of one leg in a bid to keep him alive. Still on entertainment, South African singer Tyler Laura Sithole, known as Tyler, has finally reacted to rumors that she is dating Nigerian Afrobeat star Rema. Addressing the rumors in the latest episode of the We Need to Talk podcast, the water crooner said Rema is just a friend. She clarified that the viral picture of them holding hands together that sparked the dating rumors was taken after she attended one of the Afrobeat star's concert. Recall that Tyler recently mentioned Rema in an interview with Apple Music as the celebrity she would love to take to a prom date. Meanwhile, a magistrate court sitting in Yaba, Lagos State, has granted singer Aziz Fashola, also known as Naira Marley, and Lagos socialites Balogun Eletu, known as Sam Larry, bail to the tune of 20 million naira with 3 responsible sureties. The magistrate Adiola Olatubosun told the defendants to submit their passports and ordered that they are to report weekly to the State Criminal Investigation Department, PANTI. She also warns that no one should contact her directly on the case. Recall that Naira Marley, Sam Larry, and 2 others were on October 6 arraigned and remanded over the alleged involvement in circumstances surrounding the death of a musician, Ileriola Aloba, popularly known as Mohbad. Lastly, in the news tonight, Tanzanian star Diamond Platnumz has won the Best African Act Award at the 2023 MTV European Music Awards (EMS). He beats Nigerian stars Burna Boy and Asake, Cameroon's La Bianca, and South Africa's Tyler Isu to the title at the awards ceremony in France on Sunday. Diamond Platnumz, who owns a record label, WCB Wasafi, becomes the first African artist to win 3 MTV EMS. He previously won 2 awards for Best African Act and Best Worldwide Act, Africa, India, in one night at the 2015 MTV EMS. He was also the first sub-Saharan African musician to hit 1 billion views on YouTube after joining the platform in 2011. And that's all we have for you tonight on the news at 9. Do also follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. My name is Uyaya Nika, and thanks for being a part of this, and have a splendid night rest. Good night, Nigeria.